is video 1 from Unit 9, Lesson 5. We're going to start solving equations containing a radical. So we'll start solving when x is in the equation, x is under the radical. Okay, so these are what radical equations look like. Alright, so I want to get x. The square root of x is what I have, and I need to get rid of that square root symbol. Well, to cancel a square root, you do the inverse, which would be to square. So as long as you do the same thing on both sides, then your equation remains equal. It remains balanced. So you can square both sides. So you're just left with x. When you square a square root, you're left with just what's underneath. And then 4 squared is 16. Okay. And if you plug that back in to check, the square root of 16 equals 4. So we're good. Okay. Before I can square both sides, I have to make sure the radical is by itself. So first thing I have to do is divide by 2. And I get square root of x equals 9. Now I can square both sides. 9 squared is 81. Plug that back in and make sure it works. There are cases, and we're going to see that in the next lesson, where sometimes when you plug them back in, it doesn't work. And it doesn't mean that your work is wrong. It just gives us a special solution known as an extraneous solution. But we'll look at that in the next lesson. Okay, so I need to get the radical x by itself, just like you would if that were in plain x. So the first thing is subtract 3. And then divide both sides by 5. Okay, now the square root of x is by itself. Square both sides. 36. And you plug it back in. It's correct. Okay, let's look at a few more. Okay, I have operations that are inside and outside. So the first thing I have to do is isolate the radical. I have to get the radical by itself. So I need to move the 5. Okay, then I have to square both sides. So I can't square until I have the radical by itself. I can't divide by 3 until I get rid of the radical. Okay, 17 squared is 189. And then you divide 189 by 3. And actually, I'm sorry, it's 289. 289, and divide that by 3, and you're going to get a decimal. So I don't want to round, let's just leave it as a fraction. Okay. Alright, I cannot add 2 till I get rid of the radical because the minus 2 is inside this radical. So I have to square first to get rid of the radical. Now I add 2 to both sides, and we're done. Okay. First thing I have to divide by 5. Divided by 5 is 14. To subtract 7, I first have to remove the radical since that's underneath. And this is 196. Now I can subtract 7. 189. You can always plug these back in to check to make sure you did your work right. Okay. We're ready to do Unit 9, Assignment 7.